There we go. Snapshot of Augur Resources. Our chairman is Norm Secol, who's very well known in mining circles. He's had a significantly period as or involvement in the resources industry, particularly behind Bolognese Gold, as did Peter Nightingale. And myself, I've geophysicist by trade, but spent a fair amount of time as an executive as well. And Justin Werner, who's a business consulting history. We have approximately 177 million shares on issue, and as of today, I think our market cap undiluted is around 46 million. As you can see, the share price, might try this other one for the, there we go, has basically been fairly flat up until about the middle of this year, and then we've had a significant amount of movement, and I'll explain why that is so. But, largely it's been driven by our projects. Major shareholders, Perm Gold and Rossignol. Well, Perm Gold is Norm's company, Rossignol is Peter Nightingale. So management and the board have around about 37-38% of the company. Our strategy is chiefly exploration or focusing on gold, to a lesser extent copper, and our area of focus is Indonesia. What we focus on is shallow mineralisation, near good infrastructure, so basically features which will end up with low mining costs, low capital costs. This is a peer group comparison. And this table, originally I put together back in July, and I can tell you in the preceding months there's been some significant changes in the market capitalisation of some of these companies. And you see us there at just over the 46 million. But these companies are focused in Indonesia, primarily focused on gold and to a lesser extent copper. You see companies there that have got resources, ones that don't have resources, and significant variations, as you can see in the market caps. So where are our projects? Our key project is Wanagiri, which is situated in the island, on the island of Java. Jakarta is here. It's about a 14-hour drive or a 40-minute flight, basically to site. The second project, Jampang, directly south of Jakarta, and that's about a 4.5-hour drive. I'll mainly talk about Wanagiri, which is our flagship, and it's become the flagship during the year, and it's really the reason behind the increase in share price during the year. But it's a fairly significant project. It's come to us via PT Oxiendo, which is a subsidiary of MMG, Minerals and Metals Group out of China. And they were targeting high-grade copper porphyry, large high-grade copper porphyry. They drilled only 5 holes into the licence area, and 2 of those holes were drilled into a prospect called Randu Kuning. And then they came back with what we saw as significant gold results. But it wasn't the focus of MMG. They were looking for copper, and they looked for a joint venture partner, and we were lucky enough to have been taken up on that. There's a number of other prospects around in the licence area, and there's numerous gold veins running plus 7 grams gold. There's copper mineralisation around, generally epithermal, but our key focus at the moment is on the porphyry at Randu Kuning. Just for reference, this interval here in true depth was starting from about 400 metres depth, so pretty deep. The deal for us at Wanagiri is there was no upfront payment. It was simply an expenditure of 1.5 million over the first year to earn 51% of the project. And then in year 2, it's an expenditure of $2 million, and we end up with 80% of the project. There is an option, a buyback option, and that would take PT Oxy Indo up to 65% of the project. We would end up with 25% of the project. But that only occurs if a significantly large copper deposit is found with a cut-off grade of 0.5% copper. If that was ever to be found, that is a fairly significant copper deposit, and Augur's 25% of that would be a significant asset for the company. But that being aside, Augur would retain 80% of any standalone gold deposits that happen to be found. That picture there shows the Randu Kuning hill, this hill here. There is another 5 hills in that area which show alteration at surface. Why is it an area of interest? Wanagiri sits here on the island of Java. Tujumpuka, which is an intrepid project, it's around about 1 billion tonnes at 0.4% copper, 0.45 grams gold here. Bachahija and Newmont, joint venture, close to 1 billion tonnes. Elang, another Newmont project. Expectations in Indonesia is that, or the rumours in Indonesia is that this will be as big as, if not bigger than Bachahija. So this line of projects or prospects or mines is in existence because these are an old series of volcanoes which have been eroded down. And in the case of Wanagiri and Tujumpuka, what you're seeing is the top part of the volcano is being eroded away, and we're getting the porphyry mineralisation exposed at surface, certainly in the Wanagiri case. So we're in the field of elephants, so to speak. The porphyry target is this in here, but there are shallow epithermal mineralisation around here. Now, what's the difference between these? Well, epithermal, generally in vein systems, they can have some very high-grade gold, silver mineralisation with them. Porphyry targets, this is all about mass production, large-scale mining operations. Epithermal, it's more selective mining. These are the ground magnetics over those projects. Randu Kuning, which is the porphyry target, is this magnetic high in here. You can see that there are other magnetic targets around. A lot of these haven't been drill tested. The main part of the drilling, which I'll talk about tonight, is up in this area here. We put in some trenches over this magnetic high. We knew already that there was a soil anomaly, but we put some trenches in, and we'd get a trench come back with 100 metres at running over 1 gram gold. Another trench goes in, 100 metres running over 1 gram gold. We got a bit suspicious that what we were looking at was just superficial enrichment of the soil or the near surface rocks. So we got a drill rig in to drill a couple of holes, and that was probably around about back in April. That drill rig is still drilling, and there's another drill rig that's also been brought on site. There's another 1 or 2 drill rigs that are about to start in the near month or so. There's a whole series of targets around here that have not been drilled, but they have significant rock chip anomalies. In here, almost every rock chip that's been taken is running over 0.5 gram gold, and a lot of them are running over 1 gram gold. Strike length, about 500 metres. Strike length in here is getting up around the 300 metre mark. So we're just focusing on Randu Kuning. This is looking down on the a planned view of the drilling. Mineralisation has been highlighted here in gold. And here are some of the results. Not all of the results, but some of the larger intersections. As you can see, there are some fairly high numbers with regards to widths of mineralisation being intersected. First hole in was 68 metres at just over 1 gram gold. Next hole just under 50 metres, 1.28 gram gold with copper mineralisation. And it just carried on, hole after hole after hole. The last, one of the more recent holes that we've released, we're running around 199 metres at just over half a gram gold. You can see there's some fairly hefty numbers in there. Well, what does it look like in cross-section? And this section tells a lot of the story of Randu Kuning. The mineralisation goes right up to surface. This hill, which is what we had been running the trenches over at a gram gold, is mineralised from surface, and the mineralisation is basically this near vertical body which appears to be widening at depth. The copper mineralisation with the gold mineralisation, but we don't see any arsenic. So what are the advantages of that? Well, being a hill to start off with, you can remove the hill, you've got very little dilution in your mining operation. So that material just goes straight into the plant, straight for processing. The next idea would be to put in probably a form of a pit underneath there, and you get a second bite at the cherry in that operation. But as you can see, mineralisation going down. How far can this mineralisation go? Well, we know that the PT Oxiendo, or the MMG hole, was intersecting mineralisation at around 400 metres depth. Some of these porphyry systems, they can go for over 1,000 metres depth. So fairly significant mineralisation. It's all bulk tonnage. Once you get into the mineralisation, you're in it. The results, they basically hit the level of gold, be it a gram gold or a half gram gold, and they tend to stay there. You don't get nuggeting effects as what you do in an epithermal. You know, it appears that it'd be very easy processing, or a good concentrate at least coming out of it. So it's got a lot of things going for it. That sums up Wanagiri. As I said earlier, we've got 2 drill rigs out there at the moment. The prospect is to plan is to get a couple more drill rigs going, and to also start testing some of those epithermal zones, because they've got significant potential as well. Next project that I'll just quickly talk about is the Jampang Gold Project. It's a project that we've had an option on for almost 2 years now, and there was an upfront payment of $250,000, and some issue of shares and options. But basically, there was no expenditure commitment on this project. If we like the project, it's a payment of $9 million to exercise the option. In addition, there is a profit sharing agreement. There is a small plant on site, but it hasn't had any production over the last 2 years or so. If there is no production at the time of the exercise in the option, our exercise price is $8 million. We've got gold mineralisation right up to surface. It's easy access. You can just walk around the area. There's no trees, or very little trees, over the main Lippe ore body. No forestry issues to deal with. This is just a selection of results to give you an idea of what we've been reporting over the last 2 years. What's critical to note here is that there is actually some fairly significant copper mineralisation, and we've hit zones running 18 metres at just over 2% copper, 14 metres at running 2% copper in the same holes. So there is a supergene and enrichment zone in here, which obviously has some fairly significant impacts on the economics of the project. In cross-section, this is just to give you an idea of what it actually, typical zone looks like. The mineralisation is almost near vertical. It's a whole series of veins in close proximity to each other, and we know that they go for hundreds of metres at depth. The aim here would be to look at some form of near-surface pit, and then processing both the copper and the gold into a float, and some gold door at the back end as well. That main mineralisation is in what was called Lippe, which sits in here. It has a strike length, known strike length of around 500 metres. The geophysical anomaly actually carries on for another 500 metres to the south, so this is open, and these whole series of geophysical anomalies are open to the south. The geophysics is very good at mapping the vein systems, so we can pick up the geophysical anomalies, drill underneath them, and they tend to be mineralised. This just shows you, this is what we were looking at earlier, but they carry on for some distance to the south, and there's a whole series of other anomalies that haven't been drill tested. One of the reasons these haven't been drill tested is that there is a tea plantation which starts basically on that line, and we're trying to get access into that over time to be able to drill in there, but this is in production tea plantation. As you can see, there's a whole series of holes that have intersected mineralisation outside of the main Lippy zone. And we've even got rock chips running fairly significant gold as well. Just wrapping up really with Jampang, this is the magnetics. This is a magnetic high, it's surrounded by magnetic lows. This is quite classical of a porphyry type target. We haven't drilled any deep holes to really test that porphyry mineralisation. Our key focus at the moment has really been on the shallow epithermal high-grade material. So planned activities, we've got metallurgical testing underway at Jampang, and we're doing the resource determination as we speak. At Wanageri, we are basically continuing with resource drilling definition. We just don't know how big this system is. We started the drilling program with the idea of just identifying a small resource at surface, but it's become such that now it's about trying to define where the edges of this mineralisation is. We'll get a couple more drill rigs in there in the short while, and we'll also get some of them working on these epithermal targets. And we've got some metallurgical testing underway again as we speak. So just wrapping up, last slide, why invest in Augur? Well, really we're, I guess, an entry level into significant gold and copper projects in Indonesia. It's in a very mineralised belt. We're looking for shallow mineralisation, so mineralisation where we can get a quick cash flow underway. We don't have to remove 200 or 300 metres of overburden. We're straight into it. We're fairly diversified in our projects, a couple of there on Java. With the active drilling program, we're going to get a regular news flow, and we expect the drilling program to continue well into next year, if not over most of the next year. We've flown under the radar of many companies or many investors, so we think we've got undervalued projects. And we've looked at projects and got projects where capital costs will be lessened because they're close to infrastructure, and we've stayed away from areas associated with protected forests. And that wraps up my presentation. I'll take any questions.
Questions.